August 3rd. We're looking at the Bitcoin chart and we're going to review the price movement forecast both in the long term, especially for the week, which is what we focus on and are most interested in on this channel, and then the best positions or best moments to enter for scalping or intraday trading today, August 3rd. Greed and fear are the two emotions that drive retail traders, just like I mentioned in the title of this video, and what the big players do. Because you already know that the ones who move the market, or if you don't know, I'm telling you now, the ones who move the market, not just Bitcoin, but any market, are the big players, whales, institutions. In other words, those people who have a ton of money, they control the chart however they want, they take all the liquidity from the small players, which is retail, and they do their business and become incredibly rich. And one of the things they take the most advantage of, along with manipulating indicators, are the emotions of retail traders, which obviously the big players don't have because they have a defined strategy. We're going to look for those strategies using the clues they leave on the chart. But as I was saying about emotions, usually when retail traders see an upward movement for a certain period of time, they get greedy and think the move will always continue. That is, when we saw the movement here near 68, it didn't quite reach it. A lot of people thought it was going to keep going to 70, 80, and even 90 at that moment. In other words, they got greedy, and then the big players would flip the trend and take advantage of the whole move. In the same way, the next emotion that drives retail traders is fear. That is, when things go against what retail traders expect, like here, for example, imagine you went long and now you think you're losing. It's normal for fear to take hold of you and make you want to close that position, which in the end would have been a winner. That's exactly what the big players are trying to do at all times. It's like one of those mechanical bulls at a fair. It starts moving, and just when you think you've got it under control, it gives one last jolt and throws you to the ground. Well, this is exactly the same. What the big players do is give little jolts, moving the price up and down, exactly the opposite of what the indicators might suggest. And they make retail traders get knocked down, meaning their stop losses get triggered. We're looking for those clues. How do we do it? In my course, I explained it to you. We always look at the volume because institutions can't hide the volume. That's why their moves are slower across all time frames. Because if they put in all that huge volume at once, there wouldn't be any retail traders to take the other side of the trade. So what they do is, little by little, they make their move, they play their game, buy cheap, quickly move the chart to a zone that interests them, sell, and make their profit there. We're looking for those zones and the movement with the volume. All right, without further ado, let's get into the analysis. You already know that we always start by looking at those Wyckoff phases in the long term. We're in an accumulation zone and we're looking for the lower channel. That's clear to us in the long term. Since it's an accumulation, in a few months, we'll be looking to see if that search for 80, 90, or even higher happens. But that's not what we're going to look at in the short term. For example, in this week's forecast, which is what we do on the channel, with that in mind, let's zoom in. Let's look for that support and resistance I mentioned from the accumulation channel, and we have it at 60 and 68. It's an important channel, and what's really important in this move is the middle of the channel, which is 64. You can see how it goes from one side to the other. Even if it doesn't reach, or even if it goes past, the movement's exactly the same. You already know that the big players, they never want to make it easy for you at any point because they're always going to try to trick you. All right, we have 60 close to 68. Again, 60. Even though it broke it trying to move that retail liquidity. Then again, close to 68, even though it stayed near 67, but it's still the same thing. And now we're in that bearish zone. I've already told you these past days that we were going to see a retest near the 64 area. And then where the price would feel comfortable is in this zone between 60 and 64, more towards the lower end, making lower and lower lows. And that's exactly what we've seen. You see here, the retest was very, very close to 64. It stayed at 63, around 63,800, perfectly spot on. Then we're seeing this downward movement little by little. Now we'll see a bit of a pullback again, and that's how the game goes. It won't be clear because you know there are always those moves in the opposite direction trying to catch all the possible liquidity. But in the end, when we look at it in perspective, that is over time, when we look back in say 2 or 3 weeks, we'll clearly see that the movement has been 68, 60, 60, 68, 60, 60. And then when it gets back to 60 again, you have to analyze it because those are the most complicated zones. That is, both 60 and 68, every time it gets close, there's the risk that it breaks through and changes Wyckoff phase. Now, it's clear to us that this is an accumulation, but at some point, if everything goes as we're expecting, the break above 68, we'll see at some point how it breaks through and moves into an upward zone. However, like I said, the big players could try a double distribution and push it downward. That's a much, much less likely possibility because we're in a very low zone. 60 has always been a very respected support level for Bitcoin, but in any case, it's a possibility we always have to keep in mind. All right, we've already set the forecast for the week and also for the long term. Let's look for better moments to answer during the intraday. Right now, for example, the intraday move was a rebound, a very clear pullback when it reached this area around 68,200 or a bit more, 68,280. As you can see, in my course, I explain perfectly how to determine these supports and resistances in all time frames because you already know they're not the same on the 4-hour chart as they are on the 15-minute chart. It's not the same to enter with the intention of holding for a week or several days as it is for just a few hours. Everything has its, even though all the Wyckoff phases are the same across all time frames, everything has its nuance, and you always have to adapt to the chart you're working with. Very good. We saw a very clear pullback in this area. However, the danger of entering on pullbacks is that we don't know how far they're going to go. We can draw Fibonacci and think it might be 31, 50, or 61%, but there's always the possibility of getting stuck when the lows go lower than where you thought the pullback was. That's why when on the higher time frames like we're seeing now, 1 week, each candle is 1 week, each candle is 4 hours, and it's trending down, the safest thing to do is to go short, unless it's a very obvious pullback, like the one we've seen this morning, where at any moment, if you had entered, you could always exit as soon as you see it losing strength. You might not make a huge move, but it's always profitable. Very well, what we're going to wait for during the day is exactly the same. Rebounds in the activity zone. For example, a rebound, if the pullback reaches the 63,000 area, that's a very interesting zone to look for those signals that could indicate another short position. We need to see it reach 63,000, the entry of volume, because you already know that volume is where the big players can't hide. We need to see a volume spike that's a bit higher than what we've been seeing before. You see here that there was a volume spike during the rejection, so we need to see a similar volume spike at 63,000 at the same time as we see wicks in the upper area. You can see that wicks are signs of a rejection. It might not be an immediate rejection. If you look, here we have a very, very, very clear example of what we're talking about. We saw that rejection wick. We knew, not with absolute certainty, but with a very high probability that the move was going to be short. However, it kept going up, and then we saw the second signal, and that's when the price dropped. That happens a lot when the move is really strong, that with just one touch, the big players can't stop the price, or they don't want to stop the price all at once, because that would mean introducing too much liquidity. So what they do is give it a touch, let the price keep going with the retail traders coming in, and then on the second touch, the retail traders can't hold on and it goes down. That's what we're going to see in intraday or scalping trading. I also wanted to tell you that our VIP Telegram group already has 100 members. I have to check because there are some people who unsubscribed a while ago, so there might be a spot available. But what I wanted to tell you is that if you want to join VIP Telegram, which is where I post the 2 trades I make every day, you need to sign up on the exchange I use, which for me is the best, mexc.com, and make your first deposit. In that case, you could join and become part of the VIP Telegram community. All right, I'll show you yesterday's trade. You already know we're doing the August challenge now. I'll show you the second trade. I did it. As always, I always do it the same way, which is with 10 times leverage. The account started at $500, and little by little, we're making micro trades in the direction of the trend. Very simple, no complications. It's just a matter of entering, setting the take profit, and waiting for MXC to send me the confirmation that the order has been executed. We've already had 2 days, 2 wins. I'll show you the take profit. If you want to participate, the challenge is to show you that without too much complication and without trying to make more than what the chart gives you, you can easily double that capital. For example, in the July challenge I started, just like in the August challenge, with $500 and ended up with $1,092, which is more than double. Very well. And also what I'm going to do is the profits last month, it was $592. Let's see how much we end up with this month. And I'll raffle it among everyone who signs up at mxc.com and makes their first deposit. As you can see, it's all advantages. Plus, MXC gives you $50 with your first deposit. And they're always running promotions and giveaways for the community. So it's really, really interesting. I'm Michael Vasquez, and this is Daily Bitcoin Analysis. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as I always say, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my experience with you after more than 15 years in professional trading. Stay alert for all the clues. We're now getting into the weekly routine. We're going to see a lot of movement on the chart, and we want to make some really, really good trades. See you tomorrow.